Hey girl, hey, it's IFBB Wellness Pro Emily Smith,
and NPC wellness competitor Elisabeth Sundin. Welcome back to the
Wellness Girlie Gang podcast. Hey everyone, we are back, and this episode we are going to talk about prep, what it's like to be in a bodybuilding competition prep. We're going to share a little bit about our experiences and talk about the foods that you eat, the relationships, how those change throughout your prep journey, the mental side of it, what happens on show day, and everything in between. All right, so Elisabeth, why don't we talk about what is prep?
What is a bodybuilding prep? Prep is preparing your body for a competition with a very structured meal plan, training plan, life plan to get your body at its peak physical condition so you feel and look good to step on stage in hopes to get that win. Depending on where your body's starting conditioning is, prep could be as little as 12 weeks or it could be up to 24 weeks. You're basically, for a bodybuilding preparation, this is very high level. You're in a caloric deficit. You are training with some modifications. You are posing very often. You are having your supplementation on point, and you have to prepare yourself mentally. But another question to ask is, when do you know when you're ready to start preparing for a bodybuilding show? Or when do you know to start prep?
That is a great question. So I'm actually going to scroll back to an Instagram post that I have that talks about this. Are you ready for prep? So a few things that Elisabeth kind of talked about was consistency with the basics. Are you following a meal plan and your training plan to the T? You're not missing a day. You're not missing a meal. You're hitting everything. Also, are you reaching your water, your step, and your sleep goals daily? Those, again, are the basics, and you need to be nailing those if you feel like you're ready to start a competition prep. The other thing would be time in the gym. So I think Elisabeth could agree with me there. It takes time to build muscle. You've spent time building muscle mass before starting to diet. You have a couple of hours daily that you can dedicate to strength training and cardio. That's a big thing. Elisabeth, how long does it take you to do your workouts and or cardio at the gym?
Well, I actually do time my workouts, and every single workout I put the time of completion. So it can be between 51 minutes to 120 minutes for training. That's not
Mhm.
cardio. That's not steps. And what about you? Is it about the same for your time?
Yeah, I
You're
used
actually
to
training.
time mine when especially when Brad was like, "Gosh, how long does it take you to do your
I know.
workout?" I feel like I take so much more time just because I'm doing time under tension in almost every single set, every single rep, and then I am taking my rest time. And then with our gym, we have 3 different rooms, and some things are in different rooms, so I do have to go around and find the equipment, make sure someone's not on the equipment, right? I'm sure you'd also have to figure out, "Oh, someone's using the next thing that I wanted to use, like the hamstring curls are all taken. I need to move on to something else." So there's that may take a little bit longer time. And then Brad and I are just so friendly at the gym that we talk to people in the gym. Like we're not like the chatty Cathy's, but we still talk to people in the gym. We get there around 6:30 and we leave around like 8. So yeah, usually like an hour and a half. Sometimes it was like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, especially when we were both on our A game too, and we had more stamina and more programming was a little bit tougher. Yeah, but with the injuries, we're training a little bit smarter, so it takes a little less time. But yeah, making
Mhm.
sure that you spent time developing proper training techniques like time under tension is another thing, and progressive overload. Are you doing these things? Have you learned how to do these things? Are you increasing your weights? You know, every time that you get into the gym, are you increasing your weights? Or are you at a plateau? Where are you at? Are you feeling that mind muscle connection more? For me, progress is defined week over week by either your mind muscle connection got better, you're increasing the weight a little bit, or you're increasing your reps a little bit, or your pumps are better, right? Or that to me is progress. So it's not always weights. Another thing to keep in mind if you're ready for prep is honesty with your coach. We hit that episode 2, when falling off track, what to do and how to have that good coach client relationship. So make sure you're honest with yourself and others. Like, am I ready? Do I have this accountability, this self accountability to hit all of my boxes and to not fall off track? You need to be ready to be honest with your coach if challenges pop up, or if you make a mistake, um, meaning do not lie, right? Trust, again,
Mhm.
they kind of go hand in hand, honesty and trust. So trust in your coach and the plan. Really, you need to have that buy-in with your coach that they have the best interest in you and your goals and are going to get you there. They have track record of that. You look at their Instagram and there are athletes that are looking like you want to look like. Um, so definitely do your research and making sure that you feel comfortable and safe with your coach, safe enough that you can be vulnerable enough to be honest with your coach. I think that's also really huge to have that, because I know
Mhm.
you, Elizabeth, you worked with your coach for many years and you just have that safety and trust. And like, even though this isn't her full time job, that's what's making you feel comfortable and safe and transparent with her, right?
100%.
Um, yeah. Do you have anything to talk about with that? Like
O
your
the
relationship with your Mm.
Yeah, well, when you know you're ready for prep, I'm reminiscing on earlier this year. So we're recording this in June 2025. I'm not doing a bodybuilding show this year. In January 2025, I convinced myself I was going to do another show. And it wasn't once, twice, but 3 times my coach had to remind me I was not ready. And uh, she even ended up calling me to say, all right, look, Elisabeth, you are not ready. Why do you think you are ready? I needed that wake up call. I needed that reality check that my coach knows what the best interest is for me and knows I would not be bringing my best package if I went on the stage this year. It hurt my feelings, but I am appreciative of her doing that, because that's a lot of money too, to do a show and then not bring my best package. So yeah, I'm just laughing in my head of when you know you're ready, the trust with your coach is very important because if I didn't have her, I'd probably be wasting away, not building any muscle, and then make a fool of myself on stage this year.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really important to trust their judgment of the timeline. Like, of course, you may have a timeline in mind and they can do their best to get you there. However, we have to be realistic. Do you have enough muscle mass to be competitive? What are your goals? Do you want to just compete and say, "Hey, yeah, I checked the box. I competed. I did a local show. That's all I wanted to do, was to say that I could do it and get on stage," which is still a huge accomplishment. And that honestly was what I wanted to do in my first show, because I didn't know if I wanted to continue or not. I didn't want to set that expectation.
Mhm.
Um,
How long were your preps for? Or how long did you prep?
my first prep was 18 weeks,
Mhm.
I think. 16 or 18 weeks. It didn't feel that long. I definitely could have come in leaner, but I looked great. I looked the best that I ever looked at that time. So that was for my figure show in 2021. For my shows in 2024,
Yeah.
that was a very long prep. Yeah, that started in January and didn't end until July. That was just because we were shooting for an earlier national show, but then we ended up pushing it back. Due to me having to change a coach, we were more strategic with our choices for the shows, and it worked out. So
So
yeah, go ahead.
it's funny you say that, because for my first bodybuilding show, which was a regional figure show, just like you, in 2021, mine too was only 16 weeks. So,
Yeah.
but then when I was doing wellness in 2023 and 2024, they were at least 20 or 24 weeks. And then I
Yeah.
did another show after each of those, not planning to do a show after. So it ended up being at least 6 months long. It's just very funny how ours align up. For our very
Mhm.
first show, it was short, and then our wellness shows were a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also it has to do with when we started and the coaches when we started, and the education that the coaches had and that we had as bodybuilders. And it was like, oh, yeah, sure, you can do a prep in 16, 18 weeks until it'd be fine. But it, it's a lot more common now that 20 weeks is maybe the minimum. For my girls, usually it's 20, 24 weeks. And maybe we're going for another show. So they are in maybe for 26, almost 30 weeks of prep. Um,
And it matters where your body is too. For
Mhm.
example, when I did my first figure show in 2021, 16 weeks was perfect. I looked great on
Yeah.
stage. Then in this past year, 2024, my coach and I decided to do an 18-week prep, thinking I would be ready. And our feedback from that show was to be more lean. So I wasn't lean enough. Even though every body is different, my body was different in 2021 than it was in 2024. I mean, things it responded to for my first prep, it may not have been responding to as quickly or as positively as my 2024 prep. So
Yep.
things that you do in one prep may not work for another and vice versa.
Hmm.
So I'm a fan of doing a longer prep. In 2024, it ended up being 18 weeks and then 8 weeks. 9 more weeks of prep. So even though it was a very, very long prep, I was able to bring my best package. If you asked my husband if it was a good prep, the poor guy, he was the brunt of a lot of my tiredness and grumpiness. So I'm sure Brad would say the same, but it was worth it. It was worth it. And we're still
Yeah.
married. So
Yeah. That's another good point if you're ready for prep. How are your intimate relationships, your significant others? How are your relationships around you with other people? How are your relationships with your boss, your employers, especially because they're going to need to know about why you're bringing in Tupperware all the time, why you have a gallon of water all the time, why your veins are popping out, you know? So it is good to just let the people in your circle and people around you know that, hey, I'm in prep, I'm doing this, and if you can please respect that, that would be great. Like I really do need to eat my food, I need to drink my water, I need to get my steps. So opening up that conversation and saying, if you could please respect me and my goal, is just something that is good to have before you start a prep. Another good thing is our nutrition IQ. So what that means is,
Oh.
have you been tracking food? Do you know what whole foods are? Having just more knowledge around nutrition is going to help you feel and have that trust in your coach and know, oh, okay, like, yeah, all these foods are good for me. I know this. All this stuff is good. Are you preparing
Mhm.
your foods at home? Because you're going to have to get used to that. If you're not, if you're eating used to eating out, you're going to have to prepare all your foods at home when you're in prep. So
Exactly.
just knowing the basics is just going to help you feel a little bit more confident in your plan.
And that's such a good way of putting it, Emily, of your nutrition IQ, because what you don't know, you don't know. So if you don't realize the sauces that you're using that are 130 calories for 1 tablespoon, if you think that's acceptable, you need to be educated. And that's why you have a coach to tell you these things. But going back to telling your coworkers or your employer that you're in prep, I did
Mhm.
not tell my employer for my first prep, and they all thought something was wrong with me. They thought something was wrong at home. They
You
were
got
wondering why it was taking me a while to like get things done or to respond to questions that they were asking. And it's because my brain was moving more slowly. It was taking me a little bit longer to process, and I was just grumpy, so I didn't want to say anything. So
Mhm.
it's you got to tell your coworkers because they will know, they will catch on.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, the grumpy thing. I get so irritable when I don't eat, and I knew that before I went into prep. My mom is the same way. We get hangry. We get hangry. Yeah, Brad's like, "Why are you so mean?" I'm like,
Are
Do
you
you not
hungry?
understand? I'm hungry. Like, you should know this by now. Like, if I'm mean, I'm hungry. Like, I don't mean to be mean, like, at all. Um, so yeah,
Mhm.
just know that when you get deeper in prep, you're going to get more irritable because you have less food. You have less food.
Mhm.
Um,
And during prep, you don't want to introduce any new foods
mhm,
because you do not know how your digestion is going to react. All the more reason to start having a meal plan before you go into prep so you know how your body reacts to
mhm.
um I don't know, chicken, beef, even sugar-free sauces. You want to see how your body reacts. So when you do start preparing for a show, you know, my stomach is okay with this, so I can eat this. I'm not going to be bloated. I'm not going to have poop issues. You can prepare yourself for prep.
Yep. And that's what working with a coach, right? We uncover that week over week. If there's something that doesn't sit right with you, or if you already know those intolerances, then we don't have those in the plan. And yeah, we eat whole foods normally on prep. So having a good food relationship is also a good thing for if you're starting prep. A disclaimer here, if you don't have any eating disorder tendencies, that would be ideal before starting prep because it could put you in a eating disorder kind of mindset if you're used to that restriction and then not being restricted. So having strong self-control and discipline around food is going to help. You've also taken time to cultivate your food relationship and mindset around eating. So you really are thinking like food is positive and not thinking foods are negative, like everything's good for you, carbs are good, and you have positive stress management techniques that don't include eating. So if we are stressed, we're not stress eating. We are maybe going for a walk, getting some sunlight, calling a friend to help, talk you off the ledge almost, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
Elizabeth calling me before she's about to down a gallon of peanut butter. Like,
Gosh, girl.
Emily,
I
next
know.
time you call me.
Girl.
The gym, going and doing a non-food related activity and just taking yourself, go away from the kitchen, go away from the pantry, go away from wherever the food is, go away from it. Turn off your phone.
Mhm.
Stop following food things on your on social media, even though it may amuse you.
Right.
Having a positive food relationship is good to have when you start prep. And that is
Even
something personally that I've had to go through. Um, I, before started bodybuilding, had a distended stomach because I would not eat a ton of food during the day to act like, oh, I'm the fit, healthy girl that eats bird food and only healthy food during the day. Meanwhile, at night, I binge, I eat junk, and I eat way too much food. And that is why my stomach was distended. So
mm,
I had to really fix my mindset with food. And really, it was once I started seeing the changes, the physical changes to my body, I was like, bet I want to look better. I want to feel better. I was just talking to a new client today on a call, and that's what most people want when they are coming to a coach is they just want to look and feel better. And it starts mostly with the gut. So having that good relationship with food and knowing not what foods are good, but what foods are good for you and your digestion that make you feel good. Because everyone is different, and what foods may work well for Elizabeth may not work well for me, and vice versa.
mhm. And I'm sure she wants you as a coach because you're going to help them with their mindset. I mean,
Mhm.
even there are some triggers for food when you sit down at the TV. Are you aimlessly just snacking? So another trick to prevent yourself from binging or just understanding what you're eating and why you're eating it is actually sitting at a table with no electronics in front of you and enjoy that meal. So you can understand why you're eating it, actually enjoy
Mhm.
it, feel full. You may eat slower. But yeah, I mean, having a coach help you change your mindset that food isn't bad, it's fuel.
Mhm.
But the
Mhm.
way that we think about it, especially as females, it's unfortunate to say that we're, at least when I was younger, we were conditioned to not eat as much because I'm a female. Well,
Yep.
hello, I'm 5'8", 5'11".
Yep.
I'm not a tiny girl. I need food.
Mhm.
So, and you can't. Well, I know that I couldn't do this myself. So I am glad I have my coaches that I've had to help me change that mindset. It
Mhm.
doesn't happen overnight either, but
Yeah. And you bring a good point with just sitting down with your meal, making it a nice, colorful meal that you enjoy. Make it Instagram worthy if you want. So it just looks really good to you. It's chef worthy. It smells good. Maybe it's warm, maybe it's cold, whatever you're feeling. And it's got different spices, textures. And just kind of really just immerse yourself in that food is what's going to help. Or if you can't, if it's hard for you to eat, take a little bite of something, put it down. At least you're eating and it's there, right? And instead of not eating at all, that is another trick. Yeah, I agree. We were trained to always be small, 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 do not eat a ton. And even to this day, I mean, I still feel like it's still a thing, and it's still a mindset for anyone that um even our parents age, we shouldn't eat a lot, and then they don't eat a lot, and then they tank their hormones because they're older now, and they don't realize that they're not eating enough to actually help their hormones if they
mhm,
have them at all. So yeah,
mhm,
having a good body composition and hormones is another thing to make sure you have in check before starting a prep. Before starting a prep, it would be really good to get your blood work. So, getting your blood work is essential so that we can see where you're at, because during prep, your blood work's going to go out of whack. Cortisol is going to go up, hormones are going to go out of whack, but we need to see where your baseline is and to see what we can improve. And then we'll check it throughout prep if we need to, and at the end of prep or at the end of reverse when we need to, right? So,
mhm,
having a healthy body weight, we kind of talked about that in the last episode. Your weight is like 15 to 30 pounds above stage weight. You really don't want to drop 40 to 50 pounds in a prep. You just don't. That's gonna be
that's
more like
crazy.
a weight loss. We may wanna go into a maintenance phase or a little brief mini fat loss phase before we do your prep, then to lose that and then go into it, so it's not as intense, because that's gonna be really intense for you. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and then making sure that you have adequate muscle mass. Remember, it's body building.
Mhm. I wanna go back to the blood work.
Mhm,
You could go to your general practitioner, and the blood work that they do, they may say, "Oh, like, oh, you're okay, whatever." You need somebody to actually look at your hormones, somebody that knows how to read blood work. Well, first off, get your lab script of the exact hormones you need, because I don't think at the general practitioner they check the things that we look for in a bodybuilding blood work for hormones. And
mhm,
I mean, I'm not well versed in this, but I do know it is so many more things in a bodybuilding blood work, or more than the GP is going to test for. You need to make sure you have somebody look at your blood work that knows how to read it and asks for more tests than they ask at the doctor. Yeah, because what we're doing, we are altering our hormones. We're not the general population. We need to
mhm.
be re comb through this with a fine tooth comb.
Yep. Yeah, so I like to send my girls to Life Extensions. They have a female hormone panel that you can do. There's also male hormone panels for males. And you just order it there, and then you book an appointment with LabCorp. I went through a Walgreens, and you get your blood drawn at that location, and then they email the lab results to you. So it comes in a PDF. It's comprehensive. I just have my girls send that to me in WhatsApp, and then I review that and I send them a review of and what I think. One of my clients, she went to her doctor and they were saying that it was her thyroid that was her issue. And they didn't even test her full thyroid panel. They only tested TSH. They didn't test the free T3, T4, reverse T3, and then they didn't even test her cortisol also, which was the which was the actual issue, not her thyroid. It was her cortisol, and her cortisol, we've gotten that down through different
Mhm.
techniques, and she is just way less stressed and way just more empowered and feels so much better. She does not have to go on any thyroid medications. It is not her thyroid. That is why I would really, really, really recommend getting your labs read by someone that understands reading labs, especially for a competitor or someone that actually takes their fitness and health seriously instead of just, an average Joe that doesn't work out, doesn't eat healthy. It's a little bit different, right? Like I have a ton of muscle mass. I'm not the same as, everyone else.
Mhm, mhm. And
Um, so yeah,
yeah, in the general
go
the
ahead.
general practitioner or regular doctor can read it, but they need to understand the bodybuilding lifestyle. Like Emily said, we have more muscle, so our BMI is going to be higher. It may be higher than the general population. Some of our hormones may need to be looked at more closely than a regular person because we are pushing our bodies to extreme levels and we're
Mhm.
dieting to extreme levels. So they need to understand, okay, is this range for my I don't know the names of the hormones, but is this range normal? Is it not? So thank goodness, Emily, you had your client have blood work done to make sure it was the cortisol. So can you imagine if she was on thyroid medicine right now? And all it was is an easy fix for the
Yeah.
cortisol.
Yep. Yep.
Thank goodness you did
Yep.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Little over the counter
Yeah,
steps and, just reduction techniques, breathing techniques is really
that's so
all that
much
it
easier
took.
than a pill.
And, just continuously putting in the effort to do those things because it does take effort to do those things. So many people, the general public, just want a shot or an injection, quick fix. When in reality, that's just not going to serve you in your long term health. It's just going to be like short term, right? The quick fix. It's not going to help you for your long term.
No.
All right. So the last two things really for if you're prepared for prep would be ready to say no. So I know it's hard for some people. There are a lot of people pleasers, and I love you guys, but you have to say no. Like if you're in prep, but your friend's in prep, but you're 1 week out from your show, don't stress yourself out by like going to their show or doing something for them. Like do something little that you can do, that you can control, that you can, and not stress yourself out kind of thing. For example, you want to map out your next, 18, 26, however long you're in prep, weeks, months, and then 4 to 8 weeks after, map out any vacations, anything you have going on. And, vacations are okay as long as you have access to a kitchen, you can bring your meal plan. This is if you're like deep in prep, right? If we're reversing, it's okay, but to be a little bit healthier with your reverse and make sure that we don't gain all the weight that you lost, it's best just to do, have that kitchen access, have your food. Yes, you can have free meals here and there. Um, but on prep, you have to be prepared to say no to alcohol, no to free meals, no cookies, no brownies, no alcohol, no sweets, no none of that. Unless your coach gives it to you for like a free meal or something like that. I would never give alcohol, but maybe like a sweet treat like halfway through prep or something like that. But yeah, it's saying no to if it fits your macros. Like we're not
Don't get
macro
me started
tracking
on that.
anymore. We're on a meal plan now. Yeah. We're on a meal plan now. We're eating whole foods. No more tracking. The tracking macros could be for like very, very advanced people, but even myself, I prefer a meal plan. Just it
Yeah.
keeps me sane. You're not gonna have mental capacity to think. So a meal plan. Trust your
Mhm.
coach.
Even saying no, like you said originally, say no to social events. So I think I was
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 weeks out when I went to your wedding, which was very lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Then, my husband, he was actually in a wedding as a groomsman for a wedding for a friend 1 week out from one of my shows, the Amateur Olympia, and I told Chris when we got the
Mm-hmm.
invite, I said, "No, I cannot go." And Did it hurt his feelings? Yeah. But I knew for me,
Yeah.
I did not want to be going to a social event where there was food and, well, loud music and alcohol, and it was going to be a late night, and I had
Mhm.
to be on. I mean, I felt I had 0 energy, so no, I was not going to go to that wedding. And yeah, you do miss out on social events that are happening during your prep. I wanna bring the best package to stage, so I'm going to be selfish and say no to things that I know are going to drain my social battery and are going to take me away from my kitchen, like Emily said, and, being able to track every little thing, get my steps in, get my cardio training. I can do that when I'm home because I have control over that. So yeah, definitely saying no. That takes time too. That takes experience because it's not easy
Mhm.
saying no.
Yeah, and especially to your spouse, you want to make them happy and in a wedding, like, who
I
doesn't wanna
know.
go to a wedding? I mean, I'll admit, since we did have to push 2 more weeks for my last show, and that wasn't scheduled, and there was a wedding scheduled that, again, similar to you, my husband was a groomsman in a wedding. This was a week I think it was a week or 2 weeks
Did
before
you
I got my
go?
pro card. Yeah, I went because it was already scheduled. It was already scheduled, I
Yeah,
was already committed. So, it was before I even
I
committed to this
remember
other
that.
show, so I follow through with my commitments, so, I mean, I have to go. For me, it was okay because I already did Thea's wedding on prep, and I survived the entire day, and this wedding, I wasn't in the wedding, so I had a more time to eat my own food, and then I made sure I ate before. I even just put my meal on a plate. I just asked them, like, for a plate. I just put it
So
on there,
cute.
like, and no one really, like, said anything. Luckily, we were in the corner too. I was like, "I wonder if
Yeah.
they planned that." Oh my god. I also my car wrecked that same day, so there was that added stress of having to buy a car in New Jersey, god, a week before prep. So, things happen. I'm just saying things happen, but try to plan ahead and to know that you are going to be mentally taxed. Like Elizabeth said, you're going to be very tired. You may not feel tired 8 weeks out, 4 weeks out, but I'm telling you, you will be very tired. Peak week, 2 weeks out, you're gonna be very tired. It's gonna be very hard to move your body sometimes and just to think and just to do, and you don't have a lot of mental
This
capacity.
is actually why
Um
for shows that are out of town, like last year, one was in Vegas and one was in Texas, Irving, Texas. I went out a week
Mhm.
early just so I to lower
Yeah,
the amount of stress. So I had time to go grocery shopping. I had time to have my body adjust to the plane and the new environment, the humidity. If you can afford to go out there 1 week in advance, I do that. And then I'm by myself. Chris, my husband, isn't even there. I'm by
mhm,
myself, can be grumpy by myself and just have my alone time. And I highly recommend it. It's very
yeah,
nice.
mhm, yeah. I would highly recommend, like, when you're in prep, if you are traveling, like, as far as Elizabeth has, because 'cause we're in Virginia, to take time off because, yeah, that stress, that inflammation is gonna catch up to you. I went up early with my mom, and that was really low stress because she handled everything, she drove me,
Yeah,
it's your mom,
I
my mom's
do.
taking care of me, you know? So, it was really nice to um,
Mhm.
have that support for sure. Okay, last thing with if you're ready for prep is after prep, the reverse diet. So, what happens after your prep? We start to eat a little bit more food, right? The cardio goes back down and the training kicks up a little bit, probably from peak week because peak week probably wasn't as crazy. Picks back up a little bit, maybe a little deload. It depends on how your body is. Maybe you're too fatigued, we'll do a deload. If you've got energy, maybe we'll use that because the food's starting to come up. We're going to start to introduce some free meals there. But just understand that the importance of a reverse diet is to restore your internal health markers. So we're not going from 0 to 100. We're not, going from 0 grams of carbs to 200 grams of carbs just like that. We're gradually increasing. So that can be a mental um,
Mhm.
mind game. make sure that you're aware that reverse dieting takes time. It's not all over after show day. So don't fire your coach after show day. Don't just say, "Oh,
That's
I've
the
got
word.
this," because you don't, and you need to get your blood work checked afterwards, and you need, again, someone to read your blood work. So the more importance
I
to
mean,
keep your coach.
your body is so vulnerable after stage. I mean, here you're on
Mhm,
stage, you've been restricting for X amount of weeks, then you go and have that post-show meal, your dopamine is through the roof. Then your body is wanting to eat more, more,
mhm,
more. You think you can because you're super lean. You are so vulnerable. The moment your foot gets off that stage you need that coach to make you reel it in
mhm,
mentally, slowly bring up your calories, slowly decrease your cardio or whatever it may be for you. Each person is different. I hear some people just completely stop cardio. That is not me. I do not stop my cardio,
mhm,
but it's just lessened the
mhm.
amount. But and you
Yeah,
are not able to think efficiently after a show. You can't think straight. So you need somebody. I mean, yeah, you could have your husband or wife or a friend help you, but your coach knows your body better than anyone. So why would you get rid of your coach the moment you get off stage? Like, if you want to keep that lean physique, that muscular look, you got to keep your coach. They're going to help you stay in line. If you can't tell, I'm passionate about that, but
yeah, yep. Oh, yeah. She's
oh,
like,
girl,
"I
it's
could go
another thing that
off
grinds my
all day."
gears. Yeah, do not get rid of your coach.
Don't fire your coach. Like, really, unless they just did you dirty on show day, like,
Good
fire their
point. Good point.
asses. But yeah, yeah. So that's really it for, like, being ready for prep. Um, we talked about, like, how long a prep should be, like, how long, how short. Um, I mean, I felt like mine was pretty long. I was definitely done by the end of it. I was just like, I need a break. Um, I'm educated. I know how to eat right. I know how to move. I know what not to eat, but I just needed a break. I didn't fire my coach. I just told him, "Hey, I need a break
Mhm.
for a little bit." But he still had a plan for me, right? So I still had a plan. I still had boundaries. And then it was our honeymoon. But then we went back right on plan. Caitlin, for example, she was already in a very fit state. I would say she didn't really have a ton of fat to lose. We took maybe like 10, 15 pounds off of her, like not that much. She didn't have that much to lose. So we did an 11-week
Ooh.
prep for fit model, and then we pushed 4 more weeks for bikini. Lindley was another college girly that we did an 11-week prep. She was also at a very fit
Mhm.
shape. She already had the bodybuilding lifestyle under her belt, and she just wanted to get fit for the summer and compete. And it was kind of like a caveat, like, if I'm not ready for the show, then it's okay. At least I look good for the summer. That was a good mindset to have for
That
that
is.
short period of time. And I would say I'm comfortable with 11 to 14 weeks for girls in that
Mhm.
situation, in those situations.
That's a
Um,
good
have you had any
well,
shorter
that's a good
preps?
point, Emily. It may depend on what division you're in on how long you
Yep,
should prep,
exactly.
and like you said, and your starting condition. Like, Caitlin didn't have that much to lose
Yes.
to begin with, so she didn't need to be in a super long prep. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
And think about, like, the pros too. They stay in relatively good shape. So, like, Britt Gillespie, she could be in peak week in a week or 4 weeks or whatever. Like, she doesn't have to have a long prep because she stays in such good
Mhm.
condition. So that's another thing, is amateurs versus pros. Never, 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 especially amateurs and especially new people starting off, do not compare your prep to a pro's prep, because they've just been doing this a lot longer, and they they know their bodies and how many weeks it takes to get
Yeah.
them ready. We may not.
Again,
Yeah.
how many times can we say this?
Yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy. So, yeah, comparing
Yep.
your experience to a pro or an Olympian who can do a 12-week prep and be ready, whereas for me, I was doing a 20, 24-week prep. Um, or even foods to avoid when you are in a bodybuilding prep? I know we touched on like don't introduce new foods in a prep, but
Mhm.
let's dive into it. Like give examples. Let's dive into sugar-free
Yeah.
products.
Um, so, sugar-free products, you can have them. I would just say on a daily basis, just in moderation. If I see some clients and their check-in has like 2 Alanis and 2 sugar-free coffees and a Diet Coke, I'm like, "Okay, girl, like, how's your digestion? Are you going every day?" And I scroll down and they're like, "Constipated." I'm like, "Okay, great." That's something to think about is your digestion, and that's everything with the food that you're eating and prep. Are you going to the bathroom? Are you having gas? Are you bloating? So sugar-free products could be the culprit for that. And then peak week especially, we may want to remove all of that just to get you tighter and leaner
Mhm.
for stage. Anything that we can do to just dry you out, make you look stage
So
lean.
often people ask, like, when you're in prep, when do you cut out condiments? When do you cut out sugar-free products? And again, there's no right answer to that because are you using those products during your prep to begin with? How do you react to mustard or sugar-free ketchup or sugar-free syrup?
Mhm.
Like what I'm doing has nothing to do with what your body is going to react with. So, like, at least for me, I
Mhm.
do use sugar-free ketchup, mustard, the good old G Hughes, the G Hughes, the ones that are 10 calories or less, not the Chick-fil-A 130 calorie, a tablespoon one.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, sugar-free syrup, but I do cut those out. Me personally, I cut them out, I think 3 weeks before show day, just from my own mental mindset. And at that point, food
Mhm.
is just food. Like, you don't care what it tastes like at that point.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, "When's my next
Yeah, you
meal?"
don't
I
care
don't
that it's
care
dry.
what it is at that point. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh my god, the sugar-free ketchup is probably tastes better than actual ketchup. Whenever Brad makes burgers, he'll use that actually, and if he makes me a burger, I'll use that, but I don't really use sugar-free ketchup. Just in general, I don't use a ton of condiments besides the G Hughes. I like the
Yeah,
General
you do.
Tso's, on my beef. I
I
love
don't
that. It's
have
on
it
my
at my
beef with
store.
green peppers. Oh, I'll have to get some for you. It's so good. It just is like kinda like Chinese food to me, and I don't have to feel bad about it. Um, but I don't use mustard in my prep. There was one point where I didn't use mustard at all in my prep, and then I was hungry and I'm like, "Oh, mustard, mustard's like the bodybuilding hack." I put it on everything. I like used it like every meal, and then my stomach was so messed up. It was so bad. And we were just like, What was it? What do you think it was?" It was the mustard. I took it out and I was fine. So, yes, it could work well for you. It could not, but I wouldn't necessarily like introduce new foods in prep. That's not the time to introduce new foods. Your off season, you can introduce new foods, and that's when we figure out what foods are good on your digestion, and that's really what we put in your meal plan so that we know that you're going to go to the bathroom every day because the less you eat, the less we're going to go to the bathroom. And really, going to the bathroom is just going to make life just so much
You're
better.
so much happier when you have that morning bathroom time. We don't introduce new food. So, for example, cream of rice in the little orange box, if you introduced
Hmm.
some other cream of rice company, would that be considered introducing a new food, even though it's cream of rice? It's a different, those flavored companies that you can buy online.
I would say yes and no. Yes, just because cream of rice in the orange box is just granulated rice. The other stuff has sugar in it and other things like sugar free something in it. So I would just make sure that it's okay with your body. It should be like
Yeah.
Usually those products are okay. I know it's Elevate
That's
is a
it.
big
That's what I was
one
thinking.
that has all those popular brands. I like Grindstone blends just because I was gifted it when I won my pro card, and it's black and white rice, so it actually is very easily digestible and it tastes so good. They only have like 3 flavors, but and they're not like big popular. I think they're in Canada, but it tastes good to me, and it sits well in my stomach. That is a good question though, because it's like, yeah, it's a variety of it, but it's not necessarily that. I think it would be good to just test it out. I don't think it would hurt to test it out before prep, but if you're just starting prep, you're okay.
Mhm.
Like we still have time. So I would say maybe just don't introduce new foods like 4 weeks into prep or peak week, just because you're hungry. So like for example, you're hungry, it's peak week and you're like, "Oh, pickles. Pickles are nothing and I can eat pickles." No, honey. Pickles are
Yes.
sodium. And we have to watch and control your sodium. So, and you just ate a bunch of carbs because it actually has carbs. It's not nothing. Cucumbers do have carbs, pickles do have carbs. They aren't nothing, and you do digest it. So it does do something to your digestion.
Isn't it something
Um,
on the nutritional
yeah.
label? Like, the companies, they don't have to put they can put 0 at the carb gram amount if it's under 5 carbs or less or something, isn't it? So don't always believe
Yep.
the nutrition label.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Paul, Ravella's The Pro
Mhm.
Physique podcast, and he said that he had a whole bottle of prep a day of mustard, and that was 30 calories a day or something that he was
And you
eating in
didn't even
addition
realize
to.
it.
Yeah, and it could have been more considering, right? The label could be wrong because of the
Mhm,
guidelines.
mhm.
So, yeah, things do have calories, everything, and your Alani's, check the back, they have
I feel like
calories.
I'm seeing.
I was telling one of my girls, be in the mindset of prep. Like, let's start to limit things so that we're not having like 4 sugar-free drinks every day. Let's like start cutting it back so that you're in the mindset of prep before we
Um,
prep.
yeah,
So that,
Sydney
yeah,
Gillian, 8-time figure Olympian, she
we love her.
I remember her talking about her caffeine intake. When she's not in prep, she does not consume caffeine. So
Mhm.
when she is in prep and does need caffeine to have energy and stay awake, her body actually does react.
Yeah,
So, for
yeah.
example, I drink a pot of coffee a day, plus I'll have a Ghost for the gym. So I know, I have an issue. I'll
Mhm.
admit it. So,
Yeah.
but
We need to talk. We need an intervention.
so when I'm in prep, if I continue on with that, I'm going to need so much more caffeine in my prep because my tolerance is already
Mhm.
so, yeah, my
True.
tolerance is very high.
True, true,
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So that's another
Yeah.
thing to factor
Yep.
in
Oh
prep
my god.
is your caffeine intake.
Mhm. Yep. Honestly, I actually don't drink a lot of caffeine or coffee. I'm a high stim type of person already, so it will make me bounce off the walls. But I used to be really high coffee person and then I cut it down. One of my bodybuilding coaches told me, he said, "You have adrenal fatigue. You need to stop." I did not have pre-workout for months and Brad was dating me and I thought it was the worst thing in the world. I was like, how am I going to the gym without pre-workout? But you can do it. You can do it. And actually, I like to have my coffee now as my pre-workout, and I don't have that much. I have 10 ounces, and that's it. It's really the warmth that makes me feel good about coffee. I try not to make it about like the flavor anymore, even though I do like the flavor of coffee. If you make like a nice little like iced coffee with some syrup and like some
Yeah.
Fairlife.
That's another thing is the sugar-free syrups in your coffee. You have to watch out for those too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did find actually on prep, I found prep friendly sugar-free syrups. Um, and they are with stevia in the
Ooh.
raw. Stevia in the raw was allowed for me. It was a natural sweetener. I found these syrups and I started using them, and that was the best thing. I cut out all the other ones that had um like
Like the ones you buy from
sucralose
Marshalls or
and
TJ
Splenda.
Maxx.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
I know
exactly.
exactly which
Yep.
ones you're talking about.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked about our prep history. Did you have a bad prep or a good prep? Like, what was your worst prep versus your best prep and why?
My best prep was my first because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I had no idea what it would feel like. I had no idea what my body was going to look like when I shed everything off. So I think in my first one, ignorance was bliss. So that really was my best one. And I
Mhm.
thought I looked phenomenal. And I did. I was just very proud of myself. So I think my first one was the best. I think my best one was my first. My worst one, I think, was the 18-week prep that I did this past 2024 that for the amateur Olympia in Vegas because
Mhm.
it wasn't long enough for me. Um, and
Mm,
my coach and I didn't realize that. We thought 18 weeks would be perfect, but it wasn't. I still had more fat to lose, so that's why we pushed 9 more weeks to do nationals in December. And I did lose. I think I lost 10 more pounds between the 2 shows. Yeah,
oh, wow.
so and
Mhm.
I did look better on the stage. So I think um, I mean, there's so many factors that go into a prep to like it wasn't bad. I just think I needed more time. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
horrible, nothing bad happened. Just I was disappointed in myself is why I think it was the worst. But I mean, how were my coach and I going to know my body was not going to react the way we thought it would in 18 weeks? I just needed more time. What about you? Which was your
Yeah.
best prep? And which was your worst?
Um, so best, honestly, I mean,
When you got your
last year
pro
was
card, that was
great.
your best
Like,
prep.
it yeah. Yeah, I think when I switched coaches to Chris, it was a lot better. I was being fed more. I just had more structure. This was the first coach that actually had an app. So just a little bit more like guidelines and structure. And I felt like I just leveled up with this past prep. My first prep was the worst just
Oh.
because I don't think I was mentally ready. I don't think I was mentally 100%. I definitely cheated my diet at one point, maybe twice. I don't know. It wasn't anything bad, just the fact that like I just knew I could be better. So that's why the second prep was better, just because I already had that mindset under my belt. I know that if I do cheat, I'm not going to look as good. And I mean, I've said this before that every time I was in the gym, it was if you like someone else out there could be working harder than you. Someone else out there could be finishing their meals, could be finishing their water, could be hitting their steps, could be posing more better than you. So you need to give it all you can. And that's really what I did. And I also think I was more financially stable versus 2021 and 2024. That was another thing I did not say if you're ready for prep is you need to be financially stable because a prep is going to cost you easily, thousands of dollars. And you need to be ready for that. You need to be ready to pay a coach, you know, 350 to $500 if you're in prep. I would say that's probably about the range that we're having right now for bodybuilding coaches for prep. I know for me personally, I charge lower for lifestyle clients, so that they can save up for prep if they want
Mhm.
to. But yeah, it costs a lot. So that was the other thing is now I'm financially stable. Brad and I were our relationship was more stable. We just met. Like my first prep was like
Oh,
a year
girl, with
in.
Brad.
So now we're here. Now we were like 3 years in. So like we had that trust in that relationship and he was hyping me up and he, you know, like, like your husband was my rock, my right hand, my biggest supporter helping me out through this. And I couldn't have gotten through it without him. So that's the other thing of having my support system there. And yeah, I think that's why. is there anything during your preps that you felt like you could have done differently?
100% girl. So you reminded me, even though I said my first prep was my best experience, I had I've had great coaches in the past. And then for that prep, I had a husband-wife duo. So she did my nutrition and posing, and he did my training and also posing. I
Mhm.
kept asking them about like, when do I need to pose? When do I need to start learning? Girl, I didn't start learning figure poses until 8 weeks out.
Oh my god. I was just like in anticipation, like, what
8
is she
weeks
gonna
out.
tell me
I
right
kept
now?
asking,
Oh
like,
god. Oh god.
"Should I
Oh
start
god, no.
practicing? What's going on here?" So, girl, I
What was their
"Oh, you're fine. We'll
response?
get to that. We'll get to that." And I was in very good hands with them, but I that's one thing I wish I could have changed. And I didn't know. I mean, I had no idea. They
Mhm.
taught me everything about bodybuilding. I still looked great. However, on there are I look at those pictures and I cringe because I was taught it goes to show you need to keep up with the current posing because what the posing was 5,
Mhm.
10 years ago may not be how posing is today. And that was the disconnect because they are my coaches were old school bodybuilders, old school. And I love talking to them about it. They were teaching me figure poses from 10 years ago. Um squeezing my butt on stage in my back pose.
Oh,
You do not do
oh
that for
no.
figure. I don't think you do that for any division. You do not squeeze your butt. When
No,
I was on stage for figure,
no.
I was told to squeeze my butt. So, you can only imagine what those pictures looked like. That is
Oh god. I'm like, now she's probably squeezing her back
girl.
too.
Yeah, so that's one thing I wish I could have done differently. Yeah. All the more reason to verify with NBC News Online what the posing criteria is for your division. So, what do you wish you could have changed
Yeah.
differently or what you could have done differently?
I mean, obviously, my first prep, I would've followed the plan
Mhm.
more. Taken it more seriously, I think, and then which taught me to take it more seriously my second prep. Um
The
Go ahead.
social aspect, like this past year, I was a lot better at saying no to things. So, I wish I
Mhm.
learned that sooner to learn how to say no and to protect my happiness and my social battery. That's one thing I'm proud of
Yeah.
myself for learning this past prep.
Yeah.
Are you
Um,
most proud of yourself for something that you did during prep? Sticking to the plan? Winning your pro card?
uh yeah. I mean, things I will for sure repeat again would be, um, yeah, sticking to the plan, just leaving no stone unturned, just following exactly what my coach says, not deviating from it. I was always honest. So the other thing was like, if I did deviate, I was honest. I think the one thing that I wish I could have done differently my first prep was be more honest because I just didn't have that. I didn't have that respect or trust or seriousness for the sport just yet. And I think that's when, it clicked. I was like, I want to look better. I looked great. I was proud of what I looked like, but I wanted to look better. I wanted to be leaner. I wanted to look a certain way. So in order to accomplish that, I just really have to leave no stone unturned and check all of the boxes.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, I will also repeat again is to have Elizabeth be my backstage mommy
Yeah.
if she's not in prep,
Yeah.
but also be a photographer on show day or videographer. I thought that was really great just because I'm good at documenting myself, but you look the best you'll ever look and your makeup's gonna look amazing, your hair is gonna look amazing. Like I say, always have a photo shoot around your show day, invest in that because you're never gonna look like
Girl,
that
that's
ever again. Like even show to show, you may look a little bit differently.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I I think I've done a photo shoot after every show. You're exactly right. Like that's a good it oh gosh, we could get into prep show day expenses, a whole episode in itself, but it's worth it to save money or set aside money to have a photo shoot because you will be so happy with those photos and you get to reminisce on them. I mean, you should enjoy the way that your body looks in every stage of the journey, but those show day photos or the day after show day photo shoot, it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, let's talk about show day. Because we already talked about the relationships during prep, the mental side, what happens if you fall off plan, which is in episode 2. But let's talk about show day, like what goes on during show day, maybe even before show day. So for example, the night before your show, you're gonna go in for check-ins. The only time this was different was Universe. I
Yeah.
believe for Masters Nationals, we went in a day before because it was like 3
Yeah.
days or something. We went in on Wednesday instead of the Thursday. So just make sure you know when that you need to go and do your check-in. You are not weighed if you're a female. The men's divisions, they do have some weight caps for the different divisions there. But women, you don't. You just get heighted. So you get your height checked so that you get into your classes. So like class A, B, C, that's when you see people being like, oh, I was in class A, novice. So you get your number, you get your little pin, you get your little sheet
The
too that
Tindana.
says like your name, your number, and like your information. Some other flyers for other shows. You meet some of the judges and some of the promoters there. Sometimes there's other booths, like Brent's
Yes.
Bling. There's sometimes at different places. What else? Oh, you do your
Yes.
tanning, right? So that night you do your
And if
tan.
you it really
Um,
depends on what, if you can do the tan yourself, if this is your first show or first few shows, or if you are very, very translucent like I am, it's advantageous to go with the promoter's tan company because they first off, it's their name that's there. And so if your tan looks bad on stage, that looks bad on them. And the lights are going to hit all of us a different way. But if you all have the same exact tan chemicals on your body, then comparing yourselves, you'll all look the same. Even if the tan looks bad, at least all of you look bad. But the
yep.
tan's not going to look bad. The tanning company wants you to look good. Having them backstage too to touch
Mhm.
you up. But for some companies, they, based off their chemical, however it is, they either offer just one spray tan the night before, or you can get two. So I forget if it's Olympia
Mhm.
tan or Pro Tan. One of them just does one the night before. I think it's Olympia tan. They do two. They can offer two spray tans the day before your show. And of course, you get another spray tan the show day. I did get two spray tans the day before my show, and it was worth it. So if you have lighter skin and they give the option of having two spray tans the day before show, I suggest doing that. It was only $20 more or something. Um,
I thought, to be honest, I had to get a third spray once and I didn't pay extra. Yeah, there are some companies that offer it's either I've never actually got it the night before. I got it the day of. I got two coats just because the day of it was not dark enough. The one the night before is kind of like your base coat. It's not necessarily the coat. So when you get that one and you go back to your hotel and your friends are like, "Oh, you're not that tan." It's almost like you just got back from a beach tan, but the second coat, the one in the morning, or the last coat, that top coat in the morning, is dark. That is super dark. Brace yourself. You will be a completely different human. Like, at least for Elisabeth and I, we turn completely different
we
humans.
do. Unrecognizable.
Yeah, yeah. Spray for the spray tan 2 weeks before, honestly, a month before, I would say you want to start exfoliating your skin every night and start taking some nice hot baths to soften your skin using sensitive skin lotions and body washes with non-fragrance, also just to prepare your body and skin for the tan. Especially if you're doing like back-to-back shows, you want to exfoliate between the shows, really, get that other tan off and get your skin ready for the next tan. That is one really important thing, you also cannot wear deodorant the night before you get your tan because it'll turn your underarms green. Protan does have a deodorant because one of the shows that I was at last year, one girl had a roller deodorant for Protan that didn't turn her underarms
Mm.
green. So honestly, I'd probably look into that, me personally, because I'm a sweaty girl. And so I may check into that and see how that works. But yeah, no deodorant, no perfumes, no lotions, no nothing on your skin. It needs to be just dry, but also the weeks before you're hydrating it too, right? So it should be nice
Mhm.
and hydrated. Nice balanced skin. No rough spots anywhere. That's why you need to exfoliate. So I have my belly button pierced, but I have taken it out the last 10 years. Like I have not worn it. Um, and the skin right above or like in between that
Mhm.
hole was not as soft. So I had to be like, okay, that last prep, that area showed a little bit darker. But it wasn't that big of a deal. But to me, I'm like, I
Mhm.
wanted to be perfect. So I knew exfoliate, exfoliate, exfoliate. Like make sure you get that
Mhm.
area.
Another thing to
Um,
do when you
yeah.
check in, some promoters or the people who are working there, you can ask them, "Hey, can I go see the stage so you can see what the surface is?" And some of them, if you ask, will let you put your heels on and walk on the stage so you can feel how it
Yeah.
is because you don't know if it's going to be a carpeted stage or if it's going to be a hard surface stage. If it's even,
Mhm.
let's hope it's even. um,
Will be.
yeah. I mean, when
Yeah.
I did nationals this past year, it was carpeted and the carpet was deviating up a little bit. So some of the girls tripped over it in their heels. So you just want, if that makes you sleep better at night, going to see what the surface of the show, of the stage is and practicing your heels
Mhm.
for a minute or two. Some of the promoters will let you do that.
And yeah, and especially if you've never been on a stage, never had the opportunity to go to a seminar that has a stage, it would be good just to see, all right, yeah, which way do I go in? Which way do I walk off? And if you have a group of your girlies and you want to get a nice picture the night before, I always love that, like with your pins and everything. That's always cute to just get some hype before the show day.
Hmm.
Um, and oh, there was one more thing with the tanning I was gonna say to do, and I totally forgot.
No lotions, no deodorant, no makeup. Oh, using the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, that also the tan is cold. If never gotten a spray tan before, it's very, very cold. So brace yourself, and you'll want a shower cap essentially so that your hair doesn't get all messed up. Um, so yeah, prepare for
So, Emily,
that.
you actually have a whole list of show day essentials, and you have a list
Yep,
of
yep.
what to put in your backstage bag. Um, yeah.
Yeah, if you guys DM me, I will send you that list. So DM me the backstage checklist and I will send you guys that list because it includes what Elizabeth was going to say about going to the bathroom, right? There's disposable pee funnels. Those things are a godsend because you don't want to carry around this like pee funnel that you have pee in. Like you just want to dispose that thing, like throw it out. Like we don't have
Mm-mm.
time for that. Some other things too that you will need. Oil blotting sheets, for your face, all of that jazz. So yeah, if you don't have a coach that gives you something like that and just want to know what is involved in a bodybuilding prep like backstage pack list, just let me know and
Yeah.
I will
Do you
send that
also
to you.
have an expense sheet, like how much it costs to do a prep? Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's a very
Yep.
good thing to have in front of you if you when you are
Yep.
preparing for a prep, just to know financially what you need to set aside.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was one thing I was like, "Okay, can I
No.
do this? Can I afford these shows?" Because, the amateur shows are like 150 an entry and then national shows are 350 an entry. So, it it goes up from there. So let's talk about show day. When show day happens, you will have an athlete check-in usually that day, that morning, and it's optional. Some people say it's mandatory. It's not. They're still going to let you compete. They try to do that with Caitlin at her last show, and she was hung up with hair and makeup again. That's the thing is like you may get hung up with hair and makeup. Show day, you're going to wake up bright and early, way earlier than you probably have
Mhm.
ever woken up in prep. And you're going to send your check in to your coach. They're going to help figure out what you're going to eat that day based off your look. Typically, that's how I do it. You're going to have hair and makeup done really early in the morning. Some girls, maybe, I mean, I won't speak for you, but I think my earliest was 5:30 or 6. I know girls that have gone 3:30
That's
AM
me,
for national
3:30.
shows, way too early. I was the last girl at my national show, so I was like, "Hey, we need to push it back. Like, we can I can go later. Like, I don't even need to watch this show." Like, so
Yeah,
yeah, you can be waking up
I've
super
had
early.
3:30, 3:45, 4 AM. But
Oof.
I've also had 6 AM or 6:30 AM, and I almost missed my class because hair and makeup was so behind. So, from my experience,
Mhm.
I like the earlier ones because I wanna make sure I'm not if they're going behind in schedule, I don't want the stress of knowing, I'm going to miss my class. And also what happened is the
Yeah.
promoters put originally it was figure and then wellness, and then they switched it, wellness and then figure. So then and they did not communicate that to the hair and makeup people. It was a whole that was a one-off, but everyone made it to
Yeah.
stage. It just caused a little more stress than needed to happen. But going with the promoter hair and makeup is again advantageous because ideally the promoter will communicate with the hair and makeup people and say, hey, actually we're switching
Mhm.
figure and wellness of going on stage. Can you put those girls first? And you can do your own hair and makeup, but I personally don't trust myself well enough to do my own hair and makeup. So I want to pay somebody to do it for me so I don't have that stress on myself. Like Emily said, you will be waking
Yeah.
up very early to do your hair and makeup. And then at that point, you're probably sending another picture to your coach of what you look like so then you can eat again. I'll let you continue on, Emily.
Mhm. And the hair and makeup people are
Oh,
usually
yeah.
good because they know that you're bodybuilders. They know that you have to eat. So like every time, and I was honestly lucky with my hair and makeup people. I don't like booking the show people just because I don't think their makeup is as good. In my opinion, unless you give them an inspo pick. So definitely look at other competitors. I would go to suit companies. So like Toxic Angels does a really good job of putting a bunch of girls and bunch of different looks on their Instagram, and look at some of the looks. See like, oh, there's a blonde, blue-eyed girl. She's wearing a blue suit. What does her makeup look like? That is what I do. And I sent the same thing to Caitlin, like, okay, this girl has dark hair, dark eyes, and a like olive complexion. This is what her makeup looks like. Let's get the inspo there.
So, Emily, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to take back what I said of going with the show promoter hair and makeup because I'm obsessed with Amber Potulak. I've
That's what I was
only
gonna
been
say. Like,
I
yeah.
have I've followed her for several years, but I've only been able to have her do my hair and makeup once, but it was the best experience ever. Oh, no, yeah, only once because every time I want to book her, she's already booked. So, if Amber
Yeah.
Potulak is at your show, you better
Book her.
immediately.
Book her. Yeah, yeah. I had V the makeup artist, her team for the DC Pro AM. So and that was fire. My only thing with V the makeup artist was I being an amateur was a little bit overlooked and I was waiting for about an hour. And I sat patiently because the pros were there and I was just kind of like soaking it in like I'm around these pros and they're beautiful. And I was like, "Hey, did
Yeah.
you forget about me?" It was a very beautiful look, and I really loved, I think it was Lauren on her team that did my hair and makeup, and it was perfect. It was beautiful. And then I took that look and I gave it to Amber, and then Amber was like, "Girl, we're gonna make this
Ooh,
even better. We're gonna refine this look." And I was able to have her at both of my
lucky.
national shows. One was actually a cancellation. I was like, girl," I'm like, she's like, "I have a cancellation." I'm like, "Thank you." I'm like,
You're so
yeah,
lucky.
if and I would also get on her wait list too. Even if she um is all booked, ask her to get on your wait list because she may have a cancellation and it could just be your like blessing in
Mhm.
disguise. I've heard really good things about
Mhm,
LeBeau.
mhm.
Um I heard really good things about them, and then well, Britt just got her makeup done by Via the Makeup Artist, team too, and that looked fire. So, those are my top 3. If Amber's in your
Oh,
area, I
yeah.
would go with Amber hands down. The only reason why I would say Amber over everyone else is that she's not a big conglomerate team. She is one girl herself. She is a personality that you will just want to be around. She's very bright and supportive. I love her setup, and it's only her. It's usually only her and maybe like
Mhm.
Olivia or like maybe someone she has helping her, but it's not a bunch of people. It's very intimate. It kept me so calm. And I actually met one of my friends, Tiffany, who was getting her makeup done, and then another girl was getting her makeup done. My it was yeah, my for my pro card, and she had a sewing kit because my Amber, so my first time with Amber, I had extensions that were they weft? I can't remember what they were. But they weren't the greatest, and so she sent me a link for new
Yeah.
ones, like better ones. And then I got them, and she wanted me to get the clip-in ones, but the link she sent wasn't for the clip-in ones, and she was like, "Oh crap, I sent the wrong link." Because when we got them, Olivia goes, "Oh, these are weft." So she had to do a weave. She had to do
No,
a
she
like
didn't.
sewn in. Um, yeah, and then Brad had to cut it out like 2 days later because Amber was like, "You need to cut this out after. Like this is not like professionally like sewn in. It was just sewn in by someone's like sewing kit, like just
Bitch,
generic
Emily.
sewing." So I'm thankful that those other girls were there because y'all, I would not have had my beautiful,
No,
luxurious hair.
no. See, Amber's amazing.
Yeah,
She books
she's
up very
stunning.
quickly because she only takes a certain amount of competitors, so
Right.
she has time. You're not just a number to her. And I really appreciate that. Working with Amber for my hair and makeup was the least stressful experience I've had for hair and makeup. And I've had some pretty bad experiences, like being too late or being canceled the night before, having to find somebody else within 10 hours. So yeah, it's worth it. If you can find Amber at your show and she has availability or a wait list, get on it. It brings the stress level
Yeah.
down.
Um, So we have hair and makeup, you get that done, right? And then by that time, like you should be ready to go. Your suit's on, your jewelry's on, your heels are on, you're going backstage. So backstage is just kind of like an area. Usually it's a room, it could be some like hallways. Usually there is plastic all over everywhere because we're tanned. Even in the bathrooms has plastic. So it looks a little weird. You'll have your roller bag with all your backstage goodies that you need. You'll have your big fluffy blanket to sit on. And if you could be two types of girlies, you could be the put your headphones on, sit in a corner, don't talk to girlies, just you have to focus. Or you could be the girly like me that wants to make friends with other people because that's helps me pass the time is talking to other girls because then I'm not just sitting there like anxiously waiting and worrying about whatever. I would say one thing girls do a lot is pose a lot in backstage. I would say try not to over pose. Pose, yes, if it's going to help you pump up, but don't do it too soon. Hold on one second. Piggy's barking. All right, sorry. Picky was barking. They're hungry. I got to get ready for the gym. So we'll wrap this up and we'll probably do like a part 2 of like deep dive into show day. But you're backstage and then they call your class, right? So you're lining up backstage. Then you're going to go out on stage. You're either going to do your individual presentation if you haven't done that yet, or you're doing comparisons with lining up with other girls. That's prejudging. Prejudging is done. You go back to your room or backstage, you rest, you eat again. Then a couple hours pass by, you come back on stage, and then you're either doing a presentation again if you made top 5, or you may just be coming on and doing a pose and signing off, and then you get your awards. So then it's over. You get your awards, and then you celebrate. You have your post show treats, and that pretty much is the end of prep. And then we go into your reverse
Mhm.
diet, right? All right. Anything to add,
No, girl,
Elizabeth,
we could
before we
make show
go?
day its own podcast in itself. It really could. In the reverse diet. But
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate you all listening to us talk about prep and what it is and what our best and worst ones have been. Yeah.
Yeah, hope you guys learned a little bit about how to get ready for prep and if you're ready for prep. If you have any questions and want our thoughts on if you are ready for prep, send us a DM. And if you want that backstage checklist, send me a DM. Stay tuned because we have some exciting guests coming on. This is finally, I promise you this time, it's not just us. We are going to have our next guest.
Or yeah, girl.
Should we drop the name
Do
now?
it. Let's
People
do
know.
it.
All right. So we have an Olympian, wellness Olympian, Miss Cassandra Gillis, coming on next week. And then we will have another guest following, another wellness competitor. We're going to start with some wellness girlies to start, since we're the Wellness Girlie Gang. And then we'll add in a few other competitors and girlies in our space. But yeah, stay tuned for Cassandra Gillis and chatting with her next week. We hope you guys enjoyed this
Bye,
one. On to the
everyone.
next. Bye.